Hello everyone, welcome to Spring's People of Impact. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to you our guest. In this episode, we will be talking with one of our amazing investors, Sarah Stevens. She's a consultant at Sarah Stevens Consulting and the founder of Innov8 Green, a real estate holding and investment company. Sarah was part of the investor cohort in the Health Impact Investor Challenge, a program that seeks to grow the impact investor community by introducing investors and impact-curious individuals to impact investing and providing a learning experience that culminates in making an actual investment. In her consulting business, Sarah aims to improve the healthcare system from improving access to analyzing healthcare programs and projects to addressing gaps in the system. Welcome, Sarah. It's a pleasure to have you here. And of course, to start things off, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about your journey to become an investor and how that came in your life, how that happened. Just a little bit of that story, about that background.
Okay, I guess, well, first, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be on your podcast today. So my background has been in healthcare, and I started out in nursing, and I always wanted to make an impact and a difference at whatever role I had, whatever opportunity that I sought out. So I guess it's the theme of wanting to make a difference and help people, and as I learned and grew in my career, I went from clinical practice to management and consulting and working with governments and lots of different projects and change initiatives and implementations in the healthcare system, where I saw, a need there and the problems that we were facing and the solutions that were difficult to come across. So I saw, I guess, investing in companies as something that would allow me to make a difference in a different way. Maybe a faster solution, a more innovative solution, something that I could get behind to make a difference. So initially, my interest is really around the healthcare system. And just over time, I was interested in that kind of world and the finance world and the investment world. And it's a whole different vocabulary even. And from my training, my master's at U of T was not in finance. So, I did a lot of just interests like podcasts and self-education around reading about angel investing, venture capital, trying to understand it a little bit more. So that was more on the side as an area of interest for myself. Before the fall, before I joined the Spring program, I met through a friend. I met her cousin, who was a young adult who was working, who was starting up a company, and he was so young and he was so enthusiastic. And although it wasn't healthcare, it was a marketplace company, and he's actually doing well now still. And I thought, I want to invest in him and his ideas and his passion for making a difference, even though it wasn't in my lane of what I was thinking I'd be interested in. So that was my first experience, my first investment in a company, and my first time I had to, get a lawyer to review the document in terms and stuff like that. So learning more about that. So that's sort of how I started getting interested in it. And then I thought, well, I need to, since I jumped in and invested, I thought, okay, I'm going to join an angel group. So I researched, in the US and Canada. Part of my lens was wanting to invest in Canadian companies. So I joined an angel group here in Toronto, where I live, and that's where the process started.
That's incredible. As I say, what is great is that you saw, I will say, the need from within. Being a nurse, being in the healthcare industry, as a worker, you saw the need and you said, okay, how else can I support this industry from a different aspect? Although, as you say, finance and this area wasn't your main expertise, but you knew that could make a difference. So, of course, I was going you already shared with us a little bit of your prior experience, or how it started with your friend, your cousin friend, like this investment. But before being in the Spring program, do you have more experience in investment? You were already with the Angel Group in Toronto, so you were more, I will say, going into the investment process, already invested in other companies before joining the program. How was that evolution since that first investment to the moment you met Spring? Like how was that evolution investment
well, okay. So after I joined the Angel Group, I again dove right in and started attending their meetings, and we meet weekly, and we have pitch meetings where there's companies that are vetted. So got right into pitches, and where we give feedback as investors, and you vote on the company, and then you have a little debriefing after a meeting afterwards to discuss what your thoughts are on the different components. And then if the company advances, you go into due diligence, and you go further into other meetings where you look at the data room of the company and further explore. So, I was still learning and realizing I had a bit of a learning curve. So there was that. And then we have the investment meetings. I could see where my strengths were and where I could influence maybe the system, and where the process, and where I could make my own decisions, because you make your own decisions, even though you're a part of an angel group, to invest or not. So I understood that, I still had some formal learning. So I was just seeking that out on the side. Apart from my day job, doing that as well. And then one of the angels shared the Spring program with me. So I thought I would join that, and to see as a newer investor, to expand my network, same principles, learn more, expand my network, give where I could, give advice where I could, and see if I could make a difference. And it was in the healthcare challenge. But I'll have to say, in preparing for that, they had the climate challenge just before. So I actually joined in on the pitch night finally for that. And I did invest actually in that company as well. But the winner of that challenge, and I wanted to see kind of what happens at the end, so that when I went into the start, what was I going through and what was the end goal. So that was kind of the journey from where I started more formal investing to where I joined this Spring program.
The Spring. I love the process thinking that you have, like going through all this, and also it's an ongoing learning journey, as you say. Like it's always like something to learn, something new, and also we're talking about impact investing. I wanted to ask you this because, of course, investment is something that happened. It's been happening for a long time, an angel investor, but recently the name of impact investing has become bigger and higher, and like you hear it even more. Although not everybody's knows about it yet. So a lot of investors still are kind of like investing in the profitable companies, in the companies that make you the most money, because in a way that was the investment mindset for a long time, So it's incredible to see that your journey as an investor started from the impact and not the other way around. Like sometimes.
So it makes me a little bit different in that way.
Yeah, because sometimes you see people who is an investor for a long time, and then they realize that they can do good with the money, and then they say, okay, now maybe I want to invest in companies that are creating a difference, that are creating an impact, and they start going into this journey. So
I went back a little backwards in that, because honestly, I was very much, that's a great way. I haven't thought of it that way, but that's exactly how it was, where, I want to help people. I believe in what they're doing. The idea is great. And that was kind of the evolution. And I don't want to jump ahead to some of the other questions, but
go ahead.
Spring did help me with as well, because, I was like, oh, wait a second. I can't keep giving my money away. I should probably care about making a return on my investment. And honestly, that wasn't even it's in your mind, like,
That's
wow, wouldn't
incredible.
it be great if one of these
Yeah.
companies, when I did the reading, how many companies I should be investing in, how much money you should save to do invest in the future rounds as well. So that was kind of now that's my focus more in wait a second, I should be profitable, because an idea is great and a social impact is great, to do that. But if the company is not successful, it will not have the impact.
Yeah.
So you really have to try and pick one, support a company that has a financial return as well.
And at the same way, is kind of like a circle. Like you want to make profits to be able to keep investing in other companies. So
that's true too. Yeah.
So I feel like being an investor, as you say, it can come from the fact that some people just have some money after working and it's retired, and maybe they just want to invest their money and they're thinking about making their money make more money, be profitable.
Yeah.
Or it can come from the feeling of wanting to help and say, okay, I want to start investing in companies, but it's important to find that balance. As you say, that after the program, you realize that there is a way to find a balance where you know that you can make money through supporting a company that is doing good. By result, you are doing good through that company. So
yeah. And just to elaborate on your idea, that everyone doesn't know about impact investing, that it is a bit of a newer phenomenon. It just speaks to the times that we're in, right? The emissions, the Paris Accord, that there's a shift in the culture to care about these things, and the demand from the consumers and investors to say, no, you can't just make a profit. That's not the only thing we care about. We care about, how are you impacting the environment? What social good are you doing as well? So all of those things, whether your company itself is addressing them directly, like one of the companies I've invested in, it's recycling kind of waste. So something that, in itself, it's doing good. But what else? How do they treat their employees? How do they select their employees? Like, we care more about diversity and inclusion and equality and things like that now. So it's a wonderful time to be an angel investor.
I agree. I agree. And I think that is achieve that has happened not just in the investor mindset, but also in the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes.
Every day there are more companies that are born from the needs to help, from the wanting to do so, for the why. I love when an entrepreneur, we talk about your why. And I love when a company comes from there instead of, okay, I'm going to build this, I'm going to make money with this, and then I figured out how I'm going to help the world, but actually the other way around. And at Spring, as you know, we focus on supporting companies that are within this mindset. And it's great to see the support with investors with the same mindset as the entrepreneurs. Now that you talk about when you are evaluating a company, and that is important to know what is their why, what is the reason behind what they do besides the number, besides the profit. I wanted to ask you, is you have an investment thesis? Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Walk us through, like, what do you normally look for when you are scouting companies to invest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've addressed a little bit of that so far. And I think it's evolving. So I don't think it's because that's part of the Spring program. We had to write out our investment thesis, and that's where the why comes from, and what are you looking for, and is it coming from your personal goals? Which for me, clearly it was, and it was very much healthcare focused, although I'm very much reached outside of that now. I've evolved to think, hey, I can make an impact in lots of different fields. I don't just need to be part of, where my expertise lies. And it's transferable as well, the expertise. So that's helpful. So, I don't just look for healthcare companies anymore. I look for what difference is it making? and does it resonate with me? So I don't limit myself to say only healthcare. I would say, what difference are you making? And I would literally entertain any company at this point. So, but then I would screen it for things that, and ask those questions and, how are they impacting the environment with what they're doing? What are they doing for quality? How are they hiring their staff, and where are their values? Sort of, you kind of assess their values aligned with your own, and can you get behind it, kind of thing. And as I'm going through too, it's very it's very busy, and there's a lot of companies, and so it's difficult to sort through. But even like today, I had a meeting, which I actually didn't go to, but we get the list of the companies and you look at their decks, and I filter it through by, do I personally, me, feel it's a valuable effort? And some of that comes from my values, but also my experience and my interests. Like I said, healthcare, if it's healthcare, if it's something, also I'm looking at sort of this scale of impact. Is it helping the most people? Because I'm not, although I'm targeting to invest in as many companies as I can afford, I do want to make a bigger bang if I can. And so that's kind of, those are the things I look for. As I'm learning more about sort of how can I detect somebody who maybe will have the better financial return as well as their outcome, then I'm learning more about that and how to make sure. Now, there's a lot of people, the professional angel investors who, and where I want to go to is they have that better knowledge where they can do due diligence more and kind of predict, although you can't really predict. I've learned that either as well. You can't predict. So, but is it a sound kind of, is it going to make a difference? And is it realistic and feasible in the market that they're looking to penetrate? So it's just a wonderful learning experience. It's, and I'm getting quicker at filtering companies out, things that I don't, or if I see too many in the space, that's another thing. If there's a lot of competition, that's another filter for me. Maybe it's not a good idea. You have too many competitors. Although if their plan is to be bought out by a bigger company, then that's something I would consider. So I'm not sure if I answered that.
No, it's perfect because as you say, it includes many things. Even when I talk with entrepreneurs, it said, okay, maybe you have your why very clear, but you need to have a why that is scalable, that is profitable. You need to have numbers because as an investor, as you say, it's about different things that you need to evaluate, because if you go just with, okay, I believe in this why is great, but does the company know how to communicate their why? Are they able to, to make other people understand what they're doing? Are they able to escalate their impact, their profit? Because as you say, it's like all of that will actually define the result of the company long term. So as an investor, I can imagine that even with your heart, you can go with, I love this, I love what they do. But then you are like, okay, now I need to put my brain and say, I love what they do, but until how far what they do will last.
Right. Yeah.
So I love like what you are expressing, because it's exactly that. It's that feeling. As you say, like a lot of things happening, and that's exactly, I can imagine that's how you go through your own journey to evaluate a company. So that's really nice to hear, Sarah. And now moving to what was the program. You told me that the Spring came to you because a friend recommended you in the Angels group in Toronto. So when you read about the program, what made you choose to participate besides being a healthcare program that it was kind of like meant to be because it's your background? But what else in the I will say, in the agenda, in the content attracted you when you saw what the Spring program was about?
Right. So let's remember, so the two things, one is it was newer for me and I wanted more learning. So more formal learning, formal structures. And I'm open to anything. So I thought, yeah, I'll try this. And it's a formal structure where, they've been doing it for a while. They vet 100 companies prior. And I looked at the program and I saw that it was a combination of, well, first of all, it was a commitment that you had to do and stick to for 3 months. So to me, that wasn't too long of a program. It was, I'm on the Eastern time zone, so it was a bit later for me compared to the West Coasters. But I like that they had a mix, that it was a consistent night, for example. The tools seemed easy to use. It was online. And they had formal, like people with experience targeting certain topics that would be helpful for me to be exposed to and learn about. Some was maybe repetitive and others was brand new for me and really helpful. So the tools and resources that they provided. The networking opportunity was really important to me as well. It was another venue to meet entrepreneurs and then to meet with a broader group of investors. So some of them were in specific healthcare angel groups, which I was really interested in meeting them and learning from them. And so I like that. I like the, the design of pitch nights. I wanted more pitches, more experience. It's helpful to do that. And then the fact that you got to work with a smaller team as well. So you have the bigger groups, but then you go into smaller groups where you get to, do it a longer term due diligence. And, you create an investment memo for the company that you're. So that was all appealing to me.
That's amazing. And well, you are saying that the networking that you were able to gain, the people you were able to meet. So I would like to know, how do you feel that was the experience of being in the program, and what could be one of the good takeaways that you feel like, okay, this was something I needed, I learned from it, and it's really beneficial. If you can share with me a little bit of how was the experience and how was the sessions and the takeaways that you got from the challenge.
Okay. All right. I'll start with takeaways, I guess. So it kind of falls under what I was saying, what appealed to me about it. So under the networking, I guess, heading, the takeaway there was, it was interesting to me how different people, how investors come at it from such a different perspective. And that was a good takeaway. The experiential, and I would only learn that by being in the program where you meet and you get to hear them talk about why they think it's a good company and what their thesis is. And I found that very interesting. And I found that interesting. It was learning. The takeaway from that is just to understand that, even more applying that to my own angel group is that, everybody, being more acutely aware of, everyone's coming at it from a different investment angle. And that experience matters. But the other thing was, I guess, the team. I learned a lot. People really valued what a consistent approach, I think. So that was the differences between the investors, but the similarities or commonalities was around the valuing of the team. Everybody really highly, you can have a good why, you can have a good how, and Warren Buffett would kind of say this, right? It's the team that you have, the people. Do you believe in them? Do you trust them? And if you don't, then you get out. Like some people, it could be an amazing company, it could be all these things, but you just leave. So that was reinforced for me in the program. So that was, I think, a takeaway. And then from the entrepreneur side, just again, just talking to them, hearing their stories and the hard work that they do. That was just more reinforcement to me that such a valuable thing to invest in people and their ideas. In terms of the program itself, they had surveys where they asked for feedback, which I thought was important. They did that every session. They, when they had a speaker giving a presentation, there was time for questions. And the breakout rooms, I thought, experience, and it was quick. It wasn't too. I lose focus sometimes myself. I get maybe a bit impatient. I found it was a quick enough pace, and I gave my feedback where I thought there was areas for improvement. So, and they're very open, and they're a great supportive group of people running the program as well. So I found them very helpful.
That's great, Sarah. I also love when you say investing in people instead of investing in company, because I feel like through our conversation, I have totally seen that that's kind of like where you come from. And I think it's so important. It's so important to believe in the people behind the companies, because in a way, they are the soul of the company. So
right, yeah.
That's great. So since the participation in the programs like the Health Challenge ended, what are recent changes or progress or new investment, or how is that journey going after the program? And how you feel like after being in the program, your mind or your direction kind of like maybe have some like improve or changes to what you are moving to now? Like what's happening now? What's happening since the program ended?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to like the bigger picture of, this is one way that you can enhance your exposure, your learning, your network. And so it's not just one thing, it's a combination of things. It was all the pre-learning before, it was the investing in the company and learning that way. It was joining the angel group. And then this was, view it kind of as a good supplement, a good kickoff, a nice, packaged, here's the way you can give and get. And so I think it was just more of that, of what I talked about in terms of what I learned and what I was exposed to, like that helps you grow. And you apply that to your next situation. So maybe something that I heard, I'm in another meeting after the program, looking at another company, considering maybe the thesis statement a little bit more, asking a few questions that maybe I didn't before the program. So it just helps in the overall broadening of your experience and kind of what you can, how you can contribute. So, and I think there were, so I'm speaking from someone earlier in the journey as an angel investor, but there were people who had more experience and were able to kind of be like leads of the different programs and stuff like that. So definitely it made a difference to help, my next steps and my next investments. So in that way.
That's right. No, that's great. Sarah, I think like it's a great way to start this investment journey. I really like your background and how your mind as an investor has been built by every experience. As you say, every experience gives you like a step forward into the reason why you are doing this. There is, before we finish the podcast, there is two more questions. One is, sometimes we talk with investors that maybe are not full into impact investing. And there is a question that we like to always ask within our community, and is why impact? Why it is important to invest in impact, and why is this the right moment to do it? I would love to see your thought around that. If you were to talk with other investors who maybe are not investing in impact, what will you say to them? Why investing in impact is important?
Right. That's a good question. I'm going to picture somebody who
exactly
maybe doesn't have that lens. It's hard though, as I'm starting to answer, I'm thinking if they're not in it for that, and they're only looking at pure financial, it's almost, that's a good question. How would you convince somebody or talk about the value of it? I would probably then ask, well, why are you doing it? And, because listen, 50% of your investments fail. So if you're going to put the time and effort into doing this, you kind of ask, I would maybe take it from that angle. If half of your investments are failing from a financial perspective, and I guess the company's failed. So yes, failing is a good word. That's half of what you're doing. So why? What else is motivating you? Because you're not getting the financial return from that. So help me understand. I maybe ask them, help me understand. What you think. What else can you be doing other than just having the lens of a financial return? And also, you could talk about doing good or avoiding harm. If you're going to be making these decisions, then why don't you help? Look at the world that we're living in, and I hope there's not many investors that are like that anymore, but
I agree.
The wave is coming. I would think that they would be interested, and I would ask them again, why are you doing this? What, maybe even dig into, what are some of the things that you liked about investing? Now, some angel investors don't get that involved with the company. So it's just giving money. Yeah. So it depends on who you are, what you are. But I think the argument would be, it would be that half of them fail, so you should probably try and do some good. And then the other would be, well, what else do you care about, and why are you doing it? And we had those discussions actually at the Spring Challenge. There was because when we were deciding on who the winner was, and we gave our arguments, there were people who were really not in favor of some of the companies for a specific reason that I thought, wow. And it's, like everything in the world, there's a diverse range of people and where they come from. So just, and the UN, you could quote the UN sustainable goals. It's something, you're addressing your community, your environment, the place you live in as well. I don't know if that's the best.
I love it. No, I like the honesty because it's true, as you say. It could be a provoking question. It could be a kind of like hard question to say, but it's important. It's important, and also for all the new investors that are being like born every day. Even in the program, we also have some accredited investors who have never invested in their life, and they're being introduced to investment through impact. So I feel like that's also really important, that the new generation of investors can know about impact investing and the importance. But as you say, I think that
we're going to drive. Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
They're going to be. That's a good point too. They're going to be the ones who are driving it, right?
Love it.
Because they grew up thinking about these things. They've got climate on front and center. They're really, the movements, and there's the vegan. There's lots of vegan companies. There's a lot of movements to that end. So I think that not just trying to convince somebody who's really polarized, but that's a good point, that the wave of people coming, that's going to influence, I think, people to be more impact investing, because maybe all the companies that pitch will have an impact.
That's awesome.
So that's the future.
I love it. Well, before we go, my last question that I would like to know is, would you recommend the Spring Impact Investor Challenge? To who you will recommend it? And maybe why would you recommend the challenge?
I think, I would definitely recommend it to somebody who's like me, who's at the earlier journey of your investment portfolio. And for networking alone, for education, for partaking in pitches and due diligence rooms, all of that. I also think that, entrepreneurs, it would be, I'd recommend it to entrepreneurs if they haven't. And I know they look at all various different channels where they can raise money. So this is one of them. And it is a lot of work that I'm sure Spring asks them to do, but it really prepares them get their act together. It definitely helped. I mean, that experience alone, like you feeling that you've helped an entrepreneur, better pitch their company, better, look at the impact and all of these things. I mean, that it's just satisfying and rewarding on its own. So that means anybody could really, entrepreneur could be part of that, and experience angel investors or who, want to, make a difference too by helping and mentoring. Yeah. And people can always learn. So it could be anyone. That again is that's a bit of a general answer, but I do believe that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. We can't wait to see the future of your journey as an impact investor grow and keep spreading goodness and great things in the world. And it's always so nice to hear about the people that are making a difference, who are choosing to create an impact and to leave the world better than we found it. I feel like that is one of the main things of what we do. Well, before we go, I want to also thank everyone for listening to Spring's People of Impact. I'm your host, Marlubi Gomez. And before we go, I want to invite you to follow us on social media at Spring Activator on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and Spring_IS on Twitter. Then stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be introducing more impactful people and their stories. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you very much.